1090 WKBZ. And now back to the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. And now back to your host as well, of course. That's why we're here.
I'm having a great show today. I'm having a lot of fun.
Mike Hewitt.
I am. Listen, on the line with us is Andrew Koehlinger of VoteSpotter. Andrew, welcome to the Mike Hewitt Show.
Thanks, Mike. It's great being here.
Listen, tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what is VoteSpotter. I know it's an app for smartphones, but tell me what it is.
Well, at its heart, it's a nonpartisan tool that empowers citizens to get involved in the political process in a new way with just a few simple taps of their mobile phones.
Give me an idea of what that means literally. So if I just want to double check. So say I'm wanting to find out what Senator Arlen Meekhoff is doing. I can just tap on it, watch him, and watch what he's working on in Lansing?
Yeah, it's going to all depend on where you live. So that's the beauty of VoteSpotter, is that the first thing you do when you open it is that you put in your address, and we actually tell you who your elected officials are, which I know for somebody like you already know who that is, but for some other people, they might not necessarily know that. So that's the first key to what VoteSpotter does differently, is we tell you who your legislator is. And then beyond that, we do, kind of throughout the year, we educate users through alerts and simplified bill summaries about what their elected officials are doing and how they're voting, both in Lansing and in D.C. And then the real cool part is that on your phone, you're able to basically engage with your legislator. You're able to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down on how you think they voted, and then you have the opportunity to email them or call them with your opinion as well.
How are they responding to that?
Some of them like it, some of them don't. Actually, we talked to a couple of people up on Mackinac Island when we were there. I think you were there as well.
Sure.
Some of them actually get on, and when they put in their address, they themselves come up for their, being their elected officials. So they've told us that they like getting on there and basically seeing, hey, so many of my constituents actually agree or disagree with my vote. So, but then obviously some of them haven't been that reticent as well for obvious reasons.
Well, I would think that just the fact that someone is not only looking over their shoulder but reporting the votes it has to have some positive effect, at least from us, the taxpayer standpoint. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's all about empowering and engaging, and it's simply, we inform in order to empower and to engage. We're basically just simply trying to give people a new way to make their voice heard in a way that they haven't been able to before. So, I mean, it really comes down to if you think about technology and what it has transformed today. You look at companies like Amazon, which have transformed with technology the way we shop, or Facebook, which has transformed the way that we interact with our communities, or something even as simple as Uber, which transforms something like how you hail a taxi. It only makes sense to us at VoteSpotter that technology should also transform how people engage with politics, and making it a lot easier for people to make their voice heard and to actually directly engage with their elected officials.
Tell me, just my policy wonk hat's on a little bit tight here to this morning, so bear with me. But how are you folks collecting up the votes? You've got somebody in the various capitals, or how are you gathering the information?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a guy on staff who has spent 16 years covering the Michigan legislature in various capacities. And he is basically responsible for spotting 300 votes throughout the year that we think are important or newsworthy or relevant to the users' lives. And we summarize those in very plain English, point of view neutral, nuts and bolts. This is what the bill does. And then from there, it's up to the user to then express their opinion about how their legislator voted on that, and then to contact their legislator about that if they so desire.
Listen, I have to tell you something that's probably not a secret to my listeners. I don't think that I'm capable of giving an unbiased review of legislation, and I mean that honestly. When I read something, I don't know that I can reduce it down to nuts and bolts, because I just don't think I've got that in me. And I'm not trying to be flippant with you, but how does a person do that? And I mean that honestly. How do you extract your personality and your own agenda out of when you see something that's a train wreck or something that you think is good?
Well, you have to think of it in terms of almost like journalism or reporting.
That's exactly the point. Listen, don't take me wrong, but that's exactly the point. Anyone that's listened to this show has heard me whine about the fact that the media, whether it's Walter Cronkite in the old days or any of the talking heads on cable or broadcast now, when they report the news and they act as if that they're unbiased and have no opinion, listen, not only are they bold-faced liars, but it's really obvious that they're bold-faced liars because they have an agenda and an opinion. The only difference is I tell you up front, this is my opinion and my agenda.
Yeah, well, the key fact here is that right now, with most of the things that we're reporting, they're happening after the fact. They're happening after the vote. So that right there is an undisputable fact. We have the roll call. We have the actual bill text that they voted on, and it's simply we're starting from there and we're summarizing that to the best of our ability, making it, as I said before, just simply describing what they actually voted on, what it does, and what it doesn't do.
Listen, just so folks know and that you know, I'm not attacking you. If I've met you, I've read a fair amount about you before I had you on the show this morning, by the way, and I've got a great amount of respect for you and what you're doing. But when I look at it, and I'm not trying to belabor the point, but if I were reading something on prevailing wage as an example, a vote that happened, I have an agenda. So when I report it, I won't be able to extract that out. If you folks can do it, if you can truly be journalists in your reporting of it, man, I salute you, because it's a tough task.
It is, but like I said before, we think that with the advent of some of this new technology, it's something that we can do better than we have done before. And we're not claiming that we're perfect in any way, but we're trying to get that next iteration or that next step to being point of view neutral and just giving you nuts and bolts descriptions of what the bill does.
I listened to a tax-sponsored radio show on my way in this morning, and by the time I made my 40-minute drive, I thought my head was going to explode. It was so warped and uber left bias that, and I'm going, wow, that's journalism nowadays, huh? No kidding.
Well, and the thing you have to think about too is that there's journalists on both sides of right, left, and middle of center, and really it's the confluence of all of those that makes things balanced. So we try to be as middle of the road and unbiased as possible. But I mean, I'm sure you and all your listeners, as you just indicated, know. I mean, you can find different opinions on the same bill on both the left and the right for comparison as well.
Oh yeah, now and listen to that point. I don't think necessarily that a person's opinion is a fibber or dishonest. I just know that myself, I would not be able to not interpret it from Mike Hewitt's interpretation. And so, but all beyond that, a person, how do they get this app? What do they do? How do they get it? What's it look like on their phone, etc.?
Yeah, there's really a couple of simple ways they can do it. They can go to the Apple App Store or the Android Google Play Store and just search for VoteSpotter, VoteSpotter, which is one word. Or they can go online to www.votespotter.com/coalitions. Either one of those will direct them to the App Store, and once they download it, it'll open it up. It'll ask them for their address. Quickly have them verify that is where they live, and then they'll be able to dive right into the app and see how their elected officials have been voting.
Listen, just on that point, folks, when I've had some people push back on the address thing, where they're trying to collect your information, etc. They're not. It is simply and just so that they know what your voting lineup is.
Yeah, it's exactly that. The best way to think about it is, your address is connected to your qualified voter file, more or less, which basically that's how we know which districts you live in, so that we can tell you who represents you. So that's the only reason why we ask you for your address.
Well, and let me just add to that. Of course, your address is easily available on the internet. It's available in telephone books. It's available in, as you said, any of the publicly available information that cities and counties and states have for voting. But I would just like to add to this that as you have been talking, I just went online, I downloaded the app, put in my address, and it was almost instantaneous. And I'm looking at the first one that popped up, and in this case it's our state senator, Jeff Hansen. And what I find interesting is there was a bill here called Ban Local Governmental Body Phone-In Voting, passed 30-7 in the Senate, and it said that Hansen did not vote on this. This is really neat stuff, and it's very, very easy. A great site that you've got here, and easy to access.
Yeah, and you'll actually see that the most recent road bill that went through the House, we've got most, if not all, of the various bills associated with that are on there as well. So, and like you said, that's what we're basically trying to do, using technology to basically converge with public policy in a way that hasn't happened before, and make it a lot easier for people to, because, I mean, especially for somebody like me, and millennials like myself, and really anybody, we're just busy between family and friends and work. It's hard enough to be informed going into an election day, let alone during an actual state legislative process, which is when a lot of governing actually happens. And so that's the problem we're trying to solve, and we're trying to do that with technology. Very, very, very cool. Jim?
Well, I just, again, an enlightened, educated, informed populace is important and critical to maintain the kind of government that we have lived with for over 200 years. And sometimes it's hard to get that information. You're making it easy. If people don't vote, and we sadly here in Muskegon County, we find elections are won with the 5, 6, 7% of the registered voters voting. Seems to me that if folks do have the information available, they can look at least their elected officials and use that information to motivate themselves to get out and vote.
Listen, Andrew, we're almost out of time. Do me one last favor before we go. Tell folks again, just mechanically, how and where do they get the app? What do they do?
Yeah. Once again, you can go to your Apple App Store or your Google Play Store on whatever device you have, and just search for VoteSpotter, one word. Or you can go to our website, www.votespotter.com/coalitions.
Very, very nice. Listen, Andrew Koehlinger, thank you very, very much for what you do. I was teasing earlier. It is extreme. I'm with Jim on this. It's very important that there are folks that are gathering up information in the fashion that you guys are doing it. Excellent job, and I appreciate you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate your time.
Folks, we'll be right back after these messages.